This month was absolutely carried by a $7,000 vintage pack sale, but there's a lot of red still on this spreadsheet. So let's go through the profit and loss sheet for the month of October. I got up to get some coffee and now you can see why I have 2 chairs in my office because a little Missy right here. For those of you who are new to the channel and haven't seen the recap videos yet, there are 3 things that I typically recap at the end of every month. There is the flipping, the cards that I buy from Japan, grade here in America, and then flip onto the secondary market to make some profits. I also have a resale consignment booth inside of a comic book store where I sell things like modern packs, ETB sleeves, modern bulk, modern singles, some graded cards, some higher value stuff. And lastly, over the course of the year, I've had 2 big collection purchases, one for $4,500, one for $10,000, and I've been tracking when I finally got into the profits. And last month, we actually got into the profits of essentially both collections. I think there was one where the sale happened like one day into October, so I didn't include it on last month's sheet, so we can go over that, as well as the massive pack sale that happened this month actually came from one of the collections. So now we are well into the profit on that $10,000 collection. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the video. But first, we need to start with the most fun part of this, in my opinion, which is the flipping. I'll quickly recap each column and then we'll talk about the major highs and lows of this month. Most of the columns are pretty self-explanatory. We have card number and card name. We have card cost, which is my initial cost for the card. We have grading cost, which is the cost of me getting it graded. Most of the time, you're either going to see $9.60 or $15, depending on which company I use between CGC and PSA. We have cost total, which is the card cost and grading cost added together in this column here. Sales is what it sells for on eBay, so what that sales number is. The fees is then the fees taken out from eBay. Sales minus fees is just that. It's the sales column minus the fees column. So whatever it sold for on eBay minus the fees that eBay took. And then profit is the sales minus fees minus the cost total, which is going to give us how much we profited on each of these cards. So typically in the flipping section, I like to point out the big wins and the big losses. So the big losses you're going to see are either going to be this light red, which is any card that profited less than $5, but over $0. And then the dark red is cards that we lost on. And then you'll see down here, we have this green. So this green is any card that profited above $50. And then sometimes we have a dark green, which is cards that profited over $100. As you can see on this scroll here, there's a lot more red than there is green in the profit section this month. So let's jump into why that is the case. So in this first grouping of red, you're going to see that it's all basically one card. It is the Pikachu CHR from Dark Phantasma in PSA 10. So the problem with this card is I bought it while it was going up. So it, like a lot of other cards, shot up really high during that crazy Japanese boom that happened a couple months ago. Now, the crazy part about the Japanese boom is it shot up and came down just as fast. So I was unable to really maximize my return on this card. Now, this card I bought in at $25 a piece, which was ridiculous because earlier on in the year, I was buying them for like $8 to $10 a piece. And I should have known that it was a bad idea, but I was hoping that the Japanese boom would last a little bit longer than it did. It just didn't. So I was all in at around $40 on most of these cards. By the time they came back from PSA and I was going to list them for sale on eBay, they were selling low list for around $49.99. So that is what I listed them for, $49.99, which means that most of these cards, if I made anything, I only made like $1. And if I lost up to $3 per card. I was definitely lucky that it wasn't a worse outcome than that. It was a lesson that you think I would have learned, but unfortunately, we have a lot more red down the sheet, so we're gonna discuss that as well. A little further down, you can see that we have 3 more of the Pikachu CHRs. I think I sold all of them in this month period. When I got the cards back, I just low listed and sold as fast as possible. Basically, the difference between, because you can see that my buy-in price is all the same, my grading price is all the same, and my sales price on these 3 is the same, but 2 of them I made money and 1 of them I lost money. So I use the promoted feature on all of my listings, and I forget exactly what I promoted this particular card for, but a lot of times, especially on these razor thin issues like I have here, the loss to gain is going to kind of hinge on whether or not a person found that listing via promoted or not. So when I've lost, most likely that person is going to have found the listing via promoted. I may have had like a 5% promoted fee on that, just trying to sell these as fast as possible, which means that I was going to lose a little bit of money. And on these two, they probably didn't buy through promoted, which means I made $1 on each of those. In this next block of red, you're going to see a lot of auctions, but I'm just going to point out we have one more Pikachu CHR right here, in which I only made about $1. But here we have a ton of auctions, and these are the regular Pokeball reverses from Pokemon 151. So I decided to auction a bunch of these this month, one of each of the ones that I still had left. So you can see I have the Dragonite, the Vaporeon, the Arcanine, the Jolteon, the Flareon. I was trying to buy like super popular Pokemon and hopefully make money on the pristines. I got a lot less pristines than I thought I was going to, and these definitely sold for a lot less than I thought that they would. So a lot of these cards, most of these cards, I'm in for about $12.60, and you can see that, you know, some of them, like the Eevee, sold for $7.50. The Vaporeon sold for $8.50. Some of them sold not very much, $10, $11, and these are tens of those regular reverses. But with the Master Ball reverse out there, the regular reverse is obviously going to get less attention, but might still be picked up by people who are either looking for a deal or looking for a similar looking reverse holo pattern on a artwork that they like. Unfortunately, these auctions really underperformed, and best case scenario, I made $1. Worst case scenario, I lost $7. And on most of these, I lost at least $3. For the most part, auctions have not been super friendly to me. There are scenarios in which I've made a little bit off of auctions. You can see here we have a Pikachu VMAX. This is the Coral promo. I had a really good buy-in price of like $4, and I got a lot of pristine 10s back. So this card in particular did pretty well. I made $12 on this auction, but you can see here we have another Gyarados Blastoise and we have a Radiant Blastoise. Only made $4 on each of those, which is fine. I'm glad I made money, but I probably, if I was more patient, I probably could make a little bit more money if I chose the buy it now option. Same with this Charizard V. Thankfully, my buy-in was $1, and I believe this is just a regular 10, but it still sold for $28, and we made $12 out of it. So there are situations in which you can do well with auctions. It really depends on the card, but I got pretty slammed this month running some auctions, especially on these regular reverses from Japanese 151. Down here with this PSA 9 Blastoise, this is the regular PSA 9 experience. You're probably looking to break even or make a little bit, depending on your buy-in price, on PSA 9s nowadays. Whereas before, I felt like even with PSA 9s, I might still be able to make 10 or 15 bucks. But now that margin on PSA 9s is quickly shrinking, if not gone completely. So you're definitely shooting for 10s on most cards, especially cards like these middle era cards. The prices on the middle era cards continue to come down. There's this weird thing where people are choosing to auction these middle era cards at high grades like PSA 10s and stuff, and they're getting about half the amount of money as they could if they did a buy it now. And it's creating, I feel like, this confusion where people are now listing on eBay at the last sold auction. It's creating this confusion where I feel like people don't quite understand what the true value of that card should be. Should it be listed closer to the buy it now prices, or should it be listed closer to the last sold auction prices? It's weird because they're so different. A $100 buy it now card might be $40 at auction, and you know, depending on how much patience you have, you could probably sell it for $90, you know, best offer, but some people are auctioning them for $40, and it's confusing the market right now. I feel like it confuses me when I'm putting listings up and I see last sold at like 40, but the lowest listed is like 120. It's like, what the hell do I post it at? Usually I go towards the buy it now, since I have a lot more patience and I have a lot more time that I can kind of hold on to that card for, where some people just want to turn and burn super quick, even if they lose money. So they're willing to just throw it out to these different auction houses and lose all this money so that they can put it into other stuff. So I personally lean against auctions. I may do some auctions if I want to, you know, turn and burn some product and get some money back or get some grading fees back or whatever. So because I can identify like better opportunity. It's worse that I hold on to something if I've identified that there's a better opportunity that I could buy into. So it's all situational, but if you're looking for the max amount of money for your card, especially Japanese, especially like mid-era, Sun and Moon, stuff like that, you want to stick to the buy it now route, in my opinion. Next up, we have your typical PSA 9 experience. My buy-in was about $30. I was hoping for this to get a PSA 10. It got a PSA 9. And so I lost about $4 on the transaction overall. Now we get into the scary part of the month, is the Charizard V-Stars. If you guys didn't watch my recent video, I had a PSA return where I got 14 Charizard V-Stars from V-Star Universe back, all in PSA 10. Super happy to see those, but my buy-in price was way too high. Basically, the short version of what happened, you can go check out that video if you want the longer version. The short version of what happened was I bought in right before they announced the reprint for V-Star Universe. So I was buying them for around between $50 and $60, more like $55 to $60. And then they announced the reprint about a month later after I bought all these cards and sent them to PSA. So then the reprint hit, then there was hundreds of these cards out there for, you know, $20, $30, $40 on Buy-E. Card Rush had hundreds of them in stock in mint condition. And now the buy it now prices of these PSA 10s are down in the $79.99 range. So me buying at 60, grading for 15, selling at $79.99, I'm losing money. So you can see here, I lost $12 on this one. I lost $9 on this one. I lost $10 on this one. I lost $9 on this one, and I lost $5 on these two down here. So yeah, big losses on the Charizard V-Star. Some people commented on that video and said, hey, maybe if you hold those for like a month or two, you might be okay. The price might go up, you know, 20 bucks or whatever, and you can get out of them a little easier. I have decided I'm just parting with them. I think there is better use for that money. They're $80 a piece. I have like 14 of them, so you're talking $800. I would rather have that $800 plus to put into other stuff right now than to sit on it and wait for, you know, the price to hopefully go up and for there to hopefully not be another reprint, or for there hopefully not to be another like massive injection of these cards into the system. There was another person that said, you know, it's a shame that V-Star Universe got that big reprint because it killed all the singles prices. In my opinion, V-Star Universe and VMAX Climax are easily the best Japanese sets that came out during the Sword and Shield block. So for me, I love that so many people can get their hands on those beautiful cards. Obviously, as a reseller, it kind of sucks because it bit me in the ass, but it happens, you know, timing is everything especially with Modern. So I didn't know that there was going to be a reprint until they announced it, and I bought way too high. Now that we've talked about all the losses for the month, let's talk about the major wins. So my major wins are very similar to last month. I had two Master Ball reverses still hanging around, CGC 10 Pristine, Charmeleon, and Wartortle, both I bought in at $6.61 for the Wartortle and $9.59 for the Charmeleon, graded with CGC for $9.60. So my buy-in total, not that much, and I sold them for $100 and $110 respectively, and then profited $66 and $75 respectively. Absolutely nailed it with those reverses. I wish I had bought way more of those Master Ball reverses when I was buying. It's a learning experience. It's all a learning experience. At least I bought in for the amount that I did, which has been really beneficial for me. Next time an opportunity like that shows up and it seems a little too good to be true, sometimes you can take advantage of those situations. Most of the time, it's too good to be true because it probably is. Occasionally, you can run into a situation where something is really cheap, but everyone seems to be talking about it. There's like so much hype around it, but for some reason they're cheap. And it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Sometimes those things can play out in your favor, and that's kind of what happened here with these Master Ball reverses. Next, we have an Ivysaur Master Ball reverse, same situation, $7.30 buy-in, $9.60 to grade. Sold for $100 to 99 bucks and profited $64. And then this Charizard G. So this was a PSA 10 Charizard G. I think it's a promo card, or it comes in a deck. It's got this really cool flow pattern across the top. Really cool Charizard, actually. And I bought in for about 30 bucks. Getting that in a PSA 10 is super nice because they sell for about $150. And obviously at the end of the day, I profited $83 on that card. Stuff like this is like my bread and butter. I really like the mid-era holos. I do pretty well on them. They sell much more slowly than modern stuff, but it's more like a consistency sort of thing. Like I sell like probably 20 or 30 of them every month, and it's like this consistent injection of like $15 to $30 profits on each of the cards that I do pretty well with. Now you have to get 10s. If you get 9s, you're probably going to lose money or not make much money, but I tend to do pretty decently with those. Last but not least, let's talk about, we got the PSA 10 Flareon. This is a non-hollow PSA 10 Flareon that came from a Diamond and Pearl purchase, $6.37, graded for 15, all in $21.37, sold for 85 bucks. There are some non-hollow plays, commons and uncommons, that people really like. The starters, for instance, Squirtle, Charmander. Charmeleon, the evolutions, things like that. A lot of these diamond and pearl cards, even the non-holos, are pretty sought after by people as long as the species is a popular species. So sometimes picking those up, if you can find them super cheap, like I did, mint for $6 and get the PSA 10, sometimes that can really work out for you as well. So $85 sold, and I profited $50 on that non-holo, uncommon PSA 10 Flareon from some random diamond and pearl set. There's all sorts of different areas in this market to try out. It's absolutely insane. That can be beneficial for you as long as you get the right grade. You got to get the right grade. If that was a 9, it'd probably sell for like $20. If I auctioned that card, it would probably sell for like $25. But the right buyer came around at the right time and wanted to buy it for $85. So I sold it, and it was fantastic. Last but not least is a promo. It's an XY promo 194. It is a Vaporeon EX PSA 10 promo. Really cool looking card. Bought it for $26. Graded for 15 with PSA, 41 all in. Sold it for 115. So at the end of the day, we got $54.30 profit. So thankfully, we have all of these yellow sections that are, you know, between the $5 and $49.99 range. That really helped. And as you can see, you can lose a lot on some cards. But at the end of the day, as long as you're making on cards, you're still going to come out in the positive, right? So luckily, all these other things worked out for me. All of these good profit margins worked out for me. And at the end of the day, we still came away with $1,491 in profit, even after losing a bunch on those Charizard V-Stars and those Pikachu CHRs. Because I've built up the inventory that I've had on cards that people want at good grades, I'm still able to come out well ahead of my losses at the end of the month. Now let's talk about the booth at the comic book store. English singles, we did really well, $663. That is mainly because I bought a collection earlier on in the month, and we'll talk about that collection a little bit later. I ran a fun little event at the store and was able to buy a decent sized English collection. So we were able to do $663 in English singles just from that collection and some of the English singles that I had from the new sets, Obsidian Flames and 151. And then we had Japanese singles. So Japanese singles are typically cards that don't make it to the grading pile for me. I'll put in the Japanese single binder. Occasionally I'll go on Buy and buy just lots of ultra modern, ultra rares for like 40 cents, 50 cents a piece, and then in the store I'm able to sell them for like $1, $2, $3, depending on which Pokemon is on the card, and that usually does pretty well for me for Japanese stuff. So we had $190 in Japanese singles. Modern bulk, like I said, modern bulk is just the 4 for $1 or 2 for $1 boxes of holos or non-holos, and we did $69.75 here on that. I love when this is up, you know, 50 plus mark, because, you know, I open the boxes to be able to fill the stores. So whenever I can make, you know, 4 for $1 on bulk, that's pretty good for bulk. If I was to bulk it out to Safari Zone or one of those places, I'm not getting 25 cents a card for commons and uncommons and trainers. So for me to sell a bunch of that, I like to see that. I like to see people coming in, buying a bunch of stuff and, you know, making decks or whatever they're doing with that bulk. Accessories, like I said, ETB sleeves, $22 this month. It's just a good way for me, again, to make a little bit extra on the ETBs that I open for singles for the booth itself. Case cards, I've been putting more graded in there, and this is highly inflated this month because I did an event at the store. I did a buy, sell, trade event at the store. It was a lot of fun. Loads of people showed up. It was busy, man. It was so much fun, but we sold a bunch of graded cards and singles. I did a couple trades. I did a collection purchase. It was just loads of fun. So we'll probably do that again, maybe early December, and have another buy, sell, trade event, because that was just a really fun time. I sold $566. Most of that was graded cards this time around. One thing that I've been doing is I've been putting PSA 9, PSA 8, like $25 to $50 graded cards actually in the case up there, and it does pretty well, especially with Christmas coming up. I think a lot of people are looking for like decently priced stocking stuffers or getting their son or daughter their first graded card ever. They end up being decent little presents or gifts for kids if a graded card is a 9, still decently high grade of a popular Pokemon for $25 to $50. I think people are more willing to snap by those locally than they are like $200 cards or whatever that I sell on eBay. And booster packs, like I said, we finally ran out of Obsidian Flames. That is completely sold out now. So I sell all the booster packs at $4.50 a pack. So I sold out all my Obsidian Flames. I sold out 1 box of Paldea Evolved. We're working on the second one now. And Scarlet and Violet has been sitting there for a little while. But we did $103.50 on booster packs this month, which is pretty decent as well. I like seeing that. So overall, we had a big month for sales, mostly boosted by that event that I ran, but $1,614.25. Now let's talk about costs. So I bought a collection. It was 2 full binders of basically like $20 or less ultra modern ultra rares. I paid $300 each binder. I think when I comped it out, or when I priced it out, it was about $1,000 worth of cards. So I did about 60%. That's what I was buying at during that event anyway. I was telling people like I probably do 60%, 70% on like higher end stuff. Yeah, that collection has been doing really well for me. Had loads of stuff, full arts, rainbows, alternate arts, like all sorts of cool stuff that I just immediately put back on the shelf after pricing it. My booth rent at the store is $100, and then they also take 10% of all my sales at the store. So you can see $100 booth rent, $161.43 is 10% of my actual sales. So at the end of the day, my cost this month for the booth itself is $861.43, including that collection buy. So at the end of the day, I'm walking away with $752.83. I guess sales after cost. That's not necessarily profit, but sales after cost, that's what I'm walking away with. Last but not least, let's talk about these collections. So this is the $10,000 collection, is the first collection we're talking about. You can see that profit is way up there now, baby. That is because I sold $6,950 worth of packs. That's after fees. It was $7,000 sale. We also had a CGC10 Misty's Tears that sold for $349 after 960 grading. So $269 after costs and fees. And then we also had a PSA 8 of the Team Rocket Returns pack that I graded. This should actually be $30. $700 sale, $570 profit on that one. And then we had the massive 13 heavy EX era pack. I finally sold out of the rest of my Team Rocket Returns and Fire Red Leaf Green. I've moved on from them so that I can use the cash and buy into more stuff. That was a $7,000 sale. So that takes me all the way now on that $10,000 collection to $8,429 in profit. Now that only includes the cards that I graded to sell and the packs. I had a ton of cards that I put at the comic book shop. The comic book shop started because I had a bunch of cards from that collection that I filled an English binder with, and I sold through all of those. So it basically boosted me being able to start that booth. And then on top of that, I've made $8,429. So that doesn't even include the cards that were sold at the booth itself. Now for the $4,500 collection, we are almost $2,000 profit on the $4,500 collection. This month we sold some big ticket items. I sold some Pokecune stuff. So I had a PSA 10 Flareon EX, PSA 10 Pikachu, Full Art, and PSA 10 Sylveon EX. All 3 of these I sold via eBay. $675 for the Flareon, $800 for the Pikachu, and $750. I actually sold them all to the same person, I believe. And you can see the fees are extremely low for these. I'm going to tell you why. Because I used eBay Vault for the first time. eBay Vault right now is doing a thing where if you have cards that are $250 or more, I think, you can send to your eBay Vault for 0 selling fees. The only fees that I incurred were the 2%, I think, that I promoted them on the eBay listings themselves. It was a great way to basically maximize the amount of money I got from these high value cards, and I definitely have some more cards I'll be sending to the vault. I think they are going to be changing the fee structure next year sometime. I think they're doing some sort of like buyer's premium. I forget if it was like 4 or 5%, but it's still going to be worth sending to the vault if you have high value cards that you want to sell. And I sold a Pokecune PSA 10 Raichu for $51 for a $28 profit after that. So yeah, for this collection, we are almost $2,000 on the $4,500 collection, which is quite good in my opinion, and we still have more to sell from that as well. So we're doing very, very solid on both collection purchases. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy videos like this, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and comment down below if you have questions about anything that I do. I'm not going to give a template of the spreadsheet. You don't have to pay me at all for the template of the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is very easy to create. I only use 2 formulas, the sum and minus formula, to create this. This isn't API pulled from eBay. I do it all manually, all myself. But yeah, any other questions, leave them down in the comment section below, and I will try to answer them as thoroughly as possible. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the next one.